Hello and welcome to the Speaking Frankly Football Show. I'm Frank Hughes, the chairman of Skelmersdale United Football Club, and alongside me is my co-host and passionate press officer AJ the Jet. Not that being involved with the football club is a prerequisite for hosting a football podcast, but it certainly helps. We are ready to dive headfirst into the vibrant world of non-league football in the Northwest, and we might even take a moment to discuss some of the bigger headlines in the sport. We'll explore life in the Northwest counties, bring you interviews with well-known faces in the league, and analyse how local teams are performing while making bold predictions for their upcoming matches. Nothing is off the limits here. We'll be diving into all kinds of topics, including complicated refereeing decisions and regulations that often leave fans perplexed. We want to hear from you too. This is your show, so don't hesitate to reach out with topics you want us to tackle. Let's get this conversation started and enjoy every single moment. We are speaking frankly. Hello and welcome to the 8th episode of the Speaking Frankly Football Show. Hello AJ.
Hello, good. Hello Frank, and hello everybody. Thank you very much for tuning into another episode of the Speaking Frankly Football Show with Frank Hughes, whose knowledge of non-league football extends as far as the eye can see, and me, AJ Bajet, whose knowledge of non-league football extends to the end of this table that we're reading from. So
it is a very big table, though. Let's be honest about it.
It is a bit of a big table, but I think on the grand scale of what we're talking about, it's meant to be very, very small. So thank you very much for tuning into episode 8.
Yeah, listen. Last week, as we delved into some deeply sensitive topics, we never anticipated that our discussion would inadvertently become part of a troubling narrative, and unfortunately, things took a unexpected turn, and I want to address this with the compassion that it deserves, AJ.
Yeah, absolutely. So during our episode, we mistakenly attributed a video of a Chester supporter allegedly making racist gestures to players of Warrington who they were playing. We attributed that video to Chester Football Club themselves. We sincerely regret this error and want to clarify that the video did not originate from the club. Once we became aware of our mistake, we promptly edited out the offending audio and offered our heartfelt apologies to Chester Football Club and the wider community affiliated with it. Tragically, the situation took a sad turn when the individual in question was found dead hours later at a property in Flint after being scheduled for a police interview. We intended to engage in a thoughtful discussion about the morality of public shaming on social media, especially without due process. However, the misinformation that we shared backfired quite devastatingly. We want to express our deepest condolences to the family and friends of the deceased during what is a very, very challenging time for them. Once again, we emphasise our apologies for any hurt that we may have caused, and appreciate your understanding as we navigate these complex issues together.
Most definitely.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the football now, the good stuff. No games were played, or very, very few games were played, thanks to
it's a difficult one in terms of content, isn't it? Because there's not a great deal of content, but then we seem to find it.
Absolutely, yeah. There were only 2 games played across the Northwest counties. One in Bury.
Well, we'll come to that because we've got that in part 2, the Northwest Counties news.
Yeah, we absolutely do. So I think probably the kind of the big story that we'll look at is the 3 p.m. blackout.
I know, yeah. Listen, I picked up on this one because I thought for many years now, the amount of money that I spend on Sky TV, BT Sport, I wonder what the rationale is behind having a blackout at 3 o'clock now, because I think particularly at the higher echelons of football, people struggle to get tickets. I mean, if you want to go and watch, Oh, 'cause people question this one, but if you want to go and watch Everton, there's a whole rigmarole attached to it about getting tickets now.
Yeah,
so,
there absolutely is. Yes,
and that's been going on. That's been going on for years.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So right now, at this stage, to see kind of any Premier League team, you have to, or particularly for me as a Man United fan, you have to be a member. So you have to join up as a member, which is free. You then have to pick the level of membership that you wish to commit to, which can be anything over £100 for the season. You're then able to buy tickets for cup games at a first come first serve basis, and then if you want games to the Premier League or to any finals that United may be involved in, you have to go through a ballot. And that's even without buying a season ticket as well, which for United is around about the £600 to £700 a season mark. So it is really difficult to see a Premier League club or right now.
So in terms of we understand what the 3 p.m. blackout is all about, because they're not televised at that stage. So what we don't want to do is we don't want to. I'm assuming we don't want to reduce their financial. What's the word for it? Their financial ability to income to. We don't want to ruin their opportunity of creating their best finances.
No, absolutely not. But I think.
But I don't think that's affecting the Premiership, is it?
Well, it is to a degree. I mean, our United, Everton, Liverpool, and City all joined forces over the weekend to protest against the increase in ticket prices. So United recently increased their standard ticket prices to £66 a game without any discount rate for concessions or children. So if you want to take your child to a United game, you still got to pay £66 to be able to do it, which is something that the wider Manchester United community has reacted with some level of anger, as is sort of entirely understandable, and particularly when we're living in this day and age of cost of living crisis. Everything's a little bit more expensive these days.
So the reactions come from the supporters groups?
Yeah, the reactions have come from the supporters groups, and they banded together. City and United, Everton and Liverpool have banded together to make this noise as one.
Have the clubs responded to that yet?
Not that I'm aware of, no. No statements have been released, no kind of U-turns have been... Silence is a bit more golden at this time, yeah. And I know that... these clubs will be particularly beneficial of TV rights and broadcasting deals from Sky, from BT, from TNT and everything like that. But in doing so, they are going to be alienating supporters who simply cannot afford to take themselves, take their families, take their friends to the games. And we are going to start moving towards a direction where football is for the elite, when it was born out of working class. So I think we're treading on quite dangerous ground there if we do keep moving in that direction.
So the idea behind the 3 p.m. blackout originated from what, do we believe?
So it originated from a desire for clubs to get fans through the door and to pay money to watch them in person rather than to pay a subscription or to go down to the local pub and watch it on the screen there. But it's a bit of a catch-22 because if they're then increasing the prices, where are the supporters going to go to watch it? So
that if they're going to continue to raise the prices, or they're not, they're going to stop raising the prices, then the flip side to that is that if the 3 p.m. blackout is removed, then there's an opportunity for the clubs to claw more money back through television revenue.
Through television revenue, I think. Yeah, I think it all depends on the balance of which one brings in more money. Which you'd probably say was broadcasting. I mean, the amount of broadcasting money that's bandied around these days is ludicrous. It's in the hundreds of millions, if not billions, for an organisation like the Premier League.
And the bigger clubs are going to benefit from the extra TV
hugely.
revenue. So
Yeah,
the likes of Everton, who are not doing particularly well, won't be getting as much money as, say, Liverpool or Arsenal or Chelsea.
That's right, yeah. So the more exposure that you've got on the TV, and broadcasters work this out in conjunction with the Premier League when the fixture list is released. But it almost is inevitable that teams who are doing better in the league, ergo your Cities, your Arsenals, your Liverpools, are going to get more airtime than, say, your Evertons, your Wolves, your whoever's sort of down there at the bottom end, Southampton. Yeah.
Do you think there's a possibility that all the games will be televised? We have these occasional weekends or midweeks where Amazon do all the fixtures in one.
Yeah, they absolutely do, and indeed they had that quite recently. So I was sort of fortunate enough to be able to watch United on Amazon Prime. The answer is no, I don't believe so. At least not regularly anyway, because I still think you have to factor in that clubs need supporters to come in through the door.
I still think they will. That's my point. I think people will still go and watch football come what may, and so me personally, I'm not. The 3 p.m. blackout means absolutely nothing to me at all, and I don't think it's certainly. I can't see it ever I can't see it being a particular problem for non-league football.
No, that's because every Saturday at 3 p.m. you're down watching Scum United with me, so we can't watch the 3 p.m. football even if we wanted to.
Yeah, but I mean, it still applies to us, doesn't it? We can't even send a snippet of a video that we capture of a goal, say, on a match day. We can't put that down because of the 3 p.m.
blackouts. Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's utterly pointless for us down here. So I think we should be able to kind of be a law unto ourselves as far as the 3 p.m. blackout's concerned.
Yeah. So okay, put that to one side. It's not going to affect. I don't think it's going to affect Premiership audiences in terms of spectators going to the grounds, and I don't think it'll affect non-league football either. Myself personally, I've got no problem with it whatsoever. But obviously, some people think it is an issue.
I would love the 3 p.m. blackout to be raised because I'd like to be able to watch United more. However, with the amount of money that's being paid, either in ticket sales or in media streaming, it could become a financial headache either way. So we've got to sort of tread on a little bit more careful ground if the blackout is being lifted.
And in terms of people with mental incapacities or health incapacities, it would be greater for them if they had more access to the live games.
Yeah, it would be. I think what's good about 3 p.m. blackouts is that, like I said, it encourages fans to go down and watch football in person, and if they can't get their footballing fix at a higher end Premier League club, then that's the kind of platform that allows lower league and non-league clubs to flourish. So I think if you're going to take away that blackout, you've got to look at how this may financially affect teams in our area. If fans are actually able to watch professional football, would they still come to our games?
Yeah, right. So your view is stick with the 3 p.m. blackout or not? Are you not too bothered?
I'm a bit on the fence at the minute, so I couldn't tell you my yes or no either way.
No, listen, I'm not bothered. I think, lift the 3 p.m. blackout and televise all games so we can all go and watch it and make a decision whether we pay, I don't know, 45, 55, 60 pound a ticket or we sit at home and pay whatever we pay in Sky subscriptions or Amazon.
Hey, we watch Scum at 3 p.m. on a Saturday, so it doesn't really affect us.
No, it doesn't really affect us anyway. Listen.
Up the Blue Boys.
We'll put that to one side.
Yes,
a big shout out to Farsley Celtic player Lewis Taylor, who suffered a suspected cardiac arrest during the FA Cup trophy game against Gateshead during the week.
Yeah.
Good news to report that he's making a recovery.
He is, yeah. So it was announced yesterday by Farsley Celtic that Lewis is awake and responding well during this stage of his treatment and recovery. And we absolutely send him a speedy recovery and our best wishes as that continues.
And do we know when that game's replayed? Is it this weekend, is it?
I've not been able to get a firm date on that game and when it's going to be replayed. But it was really good to see the sort of the speed of first aiders coming on to help Lewis Turner. I think that all kind of started when Fabrice Mwamba had his heart attack. Do you remember that one? Back in about 2008, Fabrice Mwamba had a cardiac arrest on the field in a FA Cup game between Tottenham and Bolton. It was an enormous media spotlight, and it really kind of put into sharp focus what was available to players in the event that they did suffer a cardiac arrest. So now there is the first aiders are all trained in CPR. Most of the sort of the higher league teams have an ambulance on site with a medical crew. They've got a defibrillator on site as well. So I think they are certainly prepared a lot better for that possibility now more than ever.
Yeah, I think we've come to expect that at the higher level of football, so it's quite refreshing to see that at non-league level it's been successful as well.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and I think this most recent case with Lewis Turner, it probably highlights that more than ever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we wish you a speedy recovery, Lewis.
Yes, not that you'll be listening to us, but you never know.
I mean, hey, if our little show reaches Farsley Celtic, I mean, they featured in our discussions on and off over the last few episodes, so maybe it has. You never know. Yeah. We'll move on now to Atherton LR, where it's been announced that Dave Jones has signed a contract with LR until the end of the 2025-26 season. Absolutely great news for him and the club as they go from strength to strength and kind of continue their journey up the football ladder together.
Yeah, we'll be talking about managers in the second part, because we'll be talking to Kevin Towey, two great managers there at two great clubs doing really, really well.
Yeah.
What basically on the face of things weren't the most attractive of football clubs to take up in management, but just goes to show that when you get involved with these football clubs, you can certainly earn your spurs.
Yeah, you absolutely can.
By taking a chance with them. So listen, good luck to Dave.
Yeah.
Brilliant that you signed a contract made up for that one.
I mean, have you ever sort of known it where a manager has signed a contract? Players, absolutely, at this level, but managers.
Tommy Lawson, first time round.
Yeah.
Signed a contract with us. 3-year contract. Might have even been a 5-year contract.
Wow.
At one stage.
Is it rare?
No, it's not as rare as you'd think, because when you've got a really good manager, you want to protect your interests.
Yeah, of course you absolutely do, and I think David Jones is probably one of the biggest assets going at this level. It just it's the first time I've ever heard about a manager signing a contract with a club at this level. Most of them kind of do a season or what have you, and then just reassess their situation. So great for LR to go straight to business and tie Dave down until the end of the 2025-26 season. Yeah,
listen, I think you'll hear more of that in the years to come, because the managers are getting younger and younger. We'll probably talk about that later anyway. Old hat this one, but Marcus Rashford was instructed by Ruben Amorim not to wear gloves before coming on, and he threw his gloves down on the floor even though a staff member was standing by him. I personally think that was disrespectful, but it does raise the question, should players be wearing gloves? A stupid one, but
It's an unusual one, but I think it comes back sort of time and time again, really. Do you remember when snoods were a very heavy highlight of players? Yeah, exactly, and they were sort of dispatched quite quickly. I think gloves is a different one altogether. I'm going to bring in the good example of tonight where Chelsea have gone to Astana. They play Astana, which is in Kazakhstan, I believe.
A very cold place.
A very, very cold place indeed. It's minus 17 over there.
Correct.
Can you imagine playing in minus 17 degree weather in just shorts and a shirt?
And no gloves.
And no gloves at all. I can't. They'll be base layered up to the nines. And I think it's actually been photographed that the Astana goalkeeper has been seen wearing a woolly hat whilst in goal. So for me, I think gloves are an essential bit of kit during very cold weathers. I think if you're a player from overseas and you're maybe not used to the climate, you'd absolutely want to be wearing gloves to keep yourself comfortable. They may end up being ditched during the game as you start running more and your blood starts moving, but I think gloves should be allowed.
Listen, players have changed now, haven't they, over the years? Professional footballers, you can't. I mean, I think David Moyes has gone on record as saying that you can't treat them like schoolboys anymore. You've got to treat them like men. They're the multi-millionaires. And was Ruben just sort of? Was this a power thing? Did he actually tell him he couldn't wear the gloves? I didn't see that bit.
I don't know. In all honesty, I didn't see him, but I assume if that's what he said, then that's what's happened. I mean, he comes from a hot climate, so you'd think he'd be more understanding to the cold and miserable Mancunian weather, possibly more than anybody. But I don't see what gloves are going to do to affect Marcus Rashford's game. I don't see how they'd affect it. And he's worn gloves for ages, as long as I can remember. You know, Carlos Tevez has worn gloves, Patrice Evra has worn gloves, Thierry Henry's worn gloves, and it's never affected their performance to the point where those players could be considered flops because they were wearing gloves.
I have a feeling this might have more to do with the general discipline at Manchester United, and you being a Manchester United supporter might know a little bit more about that, but it appears to be that it's quite disjointed at the moment at Manchester United.
I think that's one way of putting it. Yeah. So obviously Erik ten Hag has been removed from his post as manager. In the week that we've just had, Dan Ashworth, the club's sporting director, stepped down after 5 months in the job, citing indifference in views and direction with people within the club, and I think the disjointedness is obvious from the top all the way down, and I don't think the players are any different really. I mean, we've got players who are still kind of adjusting to being in an Erik ten Hag side, and now they've got to adjust once again to being in Amorim's side. We've had it where players' injuries are being questioned about whether they're faking them or whether they're elongating them. We've had players who've been dropped for mispractice on the pitch or on the training ground. So I do think the disjointedness, that's one word for it, is rife at United, and I think Amorim's got a big job on his hands to clear up that discontentedness off the pitch, as well as clearing up the performances on it.
And do you think that'll go down well with the supporters, that sort of show of discipline?
Yeah, I think it does. I think if you ask most United fans, they're not really behind the players. And with Ruben Amorim having done as well as he has done at Sporting, he's come to United, he's shown with the exact kind of formation that he wants to play, which is a 3-4-3. He's sticking with that. He's playing that tonight in their Europa League game. And I think he's got the backing of the majority of supporters in how he's approaching this job. And I think, he is still, if you look at it in a company format, Ruben Amorim is Marcus Rashford's line manager. Yeah. So if Ruben Amorim tells him he can't wear gloves, then Marcus Rashford better put those gloves down.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
So, listen, we say, yeah, it's fine. If you want to wear gloves, you're a grown man.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like I think that Amarim's just basically he's laying down the law, and he's probably appeasing to the supporters that are dissatisfied with what they've seen churned out for the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's time for Ruben Amorim to put his stamp on it. I don't know whether the gloves are necessarily the right move, but then again, I'm not qualified enough to.
But then throwing your gloves down on the floor.
Well, that's just petulance, that, and I think we're seeing that across the Premier League as a whole. Really, the interactions with referees are still really combative. We are seeing players getting fined. We're seeing players going on nights out after defeats. In the kind of media world that we've got, exposure is everywhere, and I think this kind of show of petulance is probably one in a hallmark of petulant stories and episodes that Premier League players are, being exposed for.
And quickly, do you think Ruben's the right man for the job?
Yeah, I do. I think it's going to take him a long time. It is. It's going to take him at least 2 years to get the players playing how he wants them to play. To get his players in through the door in the transfer market.
Will the supporters give him that amount of time?
I think so. Yeah. We gave Ten Hag 3 years. 2 years and a little bit more. He brought in 2 trophies, but he also brought in 2 years of mediocre, inconsistent football in which you never really knew how he wanted the players to play and what formation and tactics he wanted them to play. Whereas Amorim's come straight in, he's put in the 3-4-3 formation. He wants the players to be playing a certain way. But I don't think United can afford to keep doing this chop and change every 2 or 3 years mantra. I mean, it's cost them 20 million alone just to get rid of Ten Hag and bring in Amorim and his staff. And we're talking about a club that's trying to save money any way it can. I mean, it's got overrated players on massive amounts of money on bloated contracts that they're not going to be able to move for several years. They've had to fire a good chunk of their off-field staff. I think we're talking about 100 people have lost their jobs. Fergie has been jettisoned.
We spoke about that, didn't we, in this episode?
Yes, with his multi-million pound a year ambassadorial role. And then obviously Jim Ratcliffe's bumped up the prices.
So do you think the mix is good now, Jim Ratcliffe and Ruben?
I think the pressure's on Ratcliffe, especially with what's gone with Ashworth, because he wanted Ashworth for ages. I mean, Ashworth was such a wanted figure after what he did at the England setup and at Brighton. He was placed on gardening leave for the entire length of time that he was at United for, with 5 months, which is a horrible irony as a United fan. But I think Ratcliffe has got to back Amorim on the pitch and in the transfer market, and he's got to not alienate the fans by continuing to make it completely inaccessible.
Because if you listen to Gary Neville, it's more deep-rooted than just changing your manager.
Oh God, yeah. I think it's been more deep-rooted than that for a long time. I mean, the Glazer ownership has been, a hallmark of our failings since Fergie left. But now Ratcliffe is the kind of the face of the ownership, really. So he has to take a lot more responsibilities. But he has brought in his team that he thinks will turn United around at the top. He's brought in Omar Barada. He's brought in Jason Wilcox, Sir Dave Brailsford. So all these big names in the boardroom now have a part to play in how the club is run. So I'm going to back the pair of them for now, but it's going to be a very closely watched season to see how they do, particularly Ratcliffe.
I believe that once they've sorted the leaky roof out, everything will be fine.
I mean, Everton would know plenty about leaky roofs, Frank.
Well, that's the new stadium. Listen, it's going to have teething problems, isn't it? Like, listen, there's nothing worse than Goodison. That's crumbling. But
are you going to miss it though? Because it is.
Am I going to miss Goodison?
It's a hallmark of the old school stadiums, isn't it? The ones that were built into the terraced streets of old.
Yeah, the greatest thing about Goodison Park is actually when you walk up the steps and you look out. I mean, I was at a park end season ticket holder, if you'd walk up those steps and you'd look out on the blue and the green, fabulous sight, and then the stadium would fill up. And the best bit of it was the build up to the game, the tune, what's it called? I've forgotten it now.
It's the TV show, isn't it?
Z-Cars.
That's it.
Yeah, the Z-Cars theme tune, and the players coming out of the tunnel, and everybody erupting, and you can see all the colours of the people's clothes and whatnot, and the atmosphere is great. And then after that, it's just toxic, and it's like you've got like a toxic Mark Lawrenson and Alan Hansen behind you, spitting venom right throughout the game, and that's why I gave up my season ticket in the end. And that's probably why, when you look at these 3 p.m. blackouts, going back to that I'm much happier at times to sit back in my armchair and be an armchair football fan, because sometimes it's less stressful than going out. That said, a few weeks ago, James and I we went to watch York City, because we were up in York for the Christmas markets there, and that was fabulous. There's 5,000 people crammed into a lovely, fantastic community stadium there. And once you're walking into the stadium, you wouldn't think a stadium existed, because it's surrounded by a retail park and shops and a bowling, Super Bowl, whatever it was. So yeah, listen, there's nothing better than going to a big stadium and absorbing the atmosphere. And yeah, Goodison will be missed from my point of view for that reason that I mentioned before. But listen, the new stadium is going to bring newfound wealth to the football club. They've got to move with the times, and unfortunately they haven't. There will always be a club that's always going to be fighting against relegation unless they improve their income. So I'm all for the new stadium. I think it's fantastic. I've not had the chance to go there. My good mate Pedro's been in there, said it's absolutely fabulous. And I will get along and have a look at the new stadium pretty soon. But yeah, listen, it's fabulous from the outside. It looks massive. We talked about the aesthetics of a building, and it looks like a tinfoil stadium from the outside, to be perfectly honest with you. But it's going to be spectacular on a match day. It's going to be great. But if you take all the toxic atmosphere out of football, then football's great. But hey ho. I don't know how we got to that, really, because we were talking about gloves.
Yes, we were. Look at that, the Speaking Frankly football show, moving our way through every single segue you could possibly imagine.
Yeah. So listen, breaking news.
We do. We have some breaking news on the Speaking Frankly football show.
Yeah.
Frank?
Jimmy Bell has stepped down from his role as manager of Clitheroe. The former assistant manager of Accrington Stanley said,
"It is with regret that on Tuesday morning, December the 10th, 2024, I decided to formally inform the board at Clitheroe FC that I was to relinquish my position as manager. My position has become untenable over the last few weeks, which has coincided with a poor run of results. Certain factors have contributed to my decision. I have been 100% fully committed and have been frustrated by factors on and off the pitch. It has and will continue to be a transitional season as the club moves forward with a new breed of exciting young players. I know the club, with its wonderful support by the fans, will do well. You all have been magnificent, and I urge you to do everything you can to stay with this group. The players have given me everything, and I can't thank them enough. My staff, Sean, Pete, Chappie, have been class. I wish nothing but the best for the Clitheroe FC board members, and I know how hard they all work. Hopefully we can all learn from this experience. Lastly, I'd like to thank a certain Mr. Carl Garner, who has been an absolute godsend to me. I have enjoyed every battle with opposition managers and teams in this wonderful league. I look forward to standing with Barside boys and girls to cheer this team on. Stay strong, Jimmy Bell."
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning there, in case you didn't know, but I think I've told you before, Jimmy Bell is the uncle of Sean McConville, and Sean McConville played for Skem. He's their assistant manager at the moment, so it'll be interesting to see whether he steps up or somebody else is brought in. I don't know whether Sean's leaving with him or not.
Well, nothing's been announced as to Sean leaving. I'm sure if that was to come, it'd probably come sort of within the coming days, really. Clitheroe are, like you said, it's a season of transition. The club are sitting 17th in the league out of 21, I believe it is, 21 teams. So they're just above that relegation zone. Their results have been quite mixed. You know, they're grabbing one good result and then 3 bad ones. I think the real sort of highlight was the 8-1 loss to Hednesford last month, that I think has been a particular thorn in Clitheroe's side. When he talks about being frustrated by factors on and off the pitch, obviously on the pitch we've just talked about the results 17th in the league, yes, but you have to then ask the question about what's been going on off the pitch to then make him say he needs to go.
Well, he's been very complimentary of the football club, so one can assume that the reasons might be something to do with finances and being able to bring in players that can help alleviate the issues on the field.
Yeah, possibly. Like he said, he talks a lot about a new breed of young, exciting players. I mean, we are ourselves in a similar position of transitional season with a new breed of young, exciting players. So I wonder whether Jimmy's not been able to sort of have the finances that he's wanted to add experience in with these young players. As he would wish. There's a lot of what ifs and a lot of maybes.
I think a lot of changes have happened over the last couple of seasons, haven't they? Did their chairman move on to Nelson?
He did, yes. So he was the reason for Nelson's kind of turnaround in fortunes on and off the pitch, really. He's invested a lot of money in the squad and in the stadium, which has accounted for an awful lot for them. Excuse me. And whether Clitheroe have been able to kind of survive and thrive in his absence is another question to be had.
Have you ever been to Clitheroe's ground?
I have not, no.
It's an experience in itself. It's a lovely little setup, lovely little town is Clitheroe, of course.
Yeah,
and the pitch, listen, I'm assuming it's still the same. It's got a big slant on it. It's one of those. It's like playing on the side of Pendle Hill. But the support there is magnificent, and it's a compact stadium. And when you get a crowd in there, they know how to make a noise. Let's put it that way. So listen, just hope that Clitheroe managed to navigate these choppy waters and sort the management side of things out and keep themselves in the Northern Premier League Division 1 North, isn't it? It's West.
Division 1 West, yeah. They've got a battle on their hands now. They're in a good place, but they'll need to steady the ship in Bell's absence. And whoever the new manager is, he's going to have to hit the ground running.
Most definitely. Listen, we'll leave that first part of the show over and done with. In part 2, we'll be discussing North West Counties news, and we'll be speaking to our special guest, who's none other than the manager. Is that the third part of the show? Might be the third part of the show. We'll speak to Kevin Towey, who's the manager of Ashton Town. Yeah. So speak to you soon. Special shout out to all the businesses that support Skelmersdale United Football Club, Origin Sign Company, T&W Garners, 7PDS, Skem Express Cars 5005, Lease Car UK, RNB Auto Centre, SB Skills Solutions and Hey Presto Web Design. Thank you to everyone who donates to the club, supports our race nights, raffles and the lottery bonus ball scheme. And, of course, the last man standing. A special thanks to those who organise these fundraising events, especially the incredible Lee Davis and Lucas Bergquist. To all who stand by us both on and off the field, we are truly grateful. If you wish to sponsor the show, please contact me at chairman.skemutdfc@gmail.com or call me on 07766 054 548. All proceeds will go to Skelmersdale United Football Club. Thank you for your unwavering support. Well, if you've hung on a little bit, you've come to part 2 of the show. So welcome back to the show. Me and, of course, AJ. We're still here.
Yes, we are.
And we're going to talk about the North West Counties.
Yes, we
Starting off with Bury Football Club.
Yeah, absolutely. So with Storm Dara doing the business on most football games across the country, including wiping out all of Wales, plus a big game in Merseyside. Bury FC,
which one was that?
Oh, do you know what? I can't remember. It wasn't a big game. I don't think.
Was that the Stanley Park Goodison? The Stanley Park Derby?
Yeah, I think City of Liverpool may have been involved. I'm not sure. Could have been Runcorn. I'm not 100% sure.
I was surprised that didn't get played.
Yeah, me too.
But it was bad.
It was bad. I didn't think it was bad enough to kind of wipe out stadiums, though. And
no.
Well, probably shows why you lot are moving to a new stadium, really. If a little bit of wind is going to kind of catch you out.
It might have blown down the new stadium, as far as I've listened. You
I don't
said
know.
It leaked.
We've seen the floods.
Where did it flood from, by the way? Was it just down,
the roof, Frank?
Was it from the roof?
Yeah.
Oh, so water didn't just come in from the River Mersey?
No, it didn't. It didn't burst its banks. I'm
imagining a lot of Liverpool supporters would be thinking, would be hoping that it was going to get swallowed up by the River Mersey, so that they could say,
yeah, you're staying in Goodison now. Yeah. No. But anyway, we're not segueing into Liverpool matters now. No, so only 2 games survived Storm Dara last weekend. So Bury FC versus Colne was the first one. So Colne had been on a really good run of late. Really, they'd reinvigorated themselves. They'd climbed off the bottom of the North West Counties Premier League. And were in good spirits heading into that game against Bury, who had been inconsistent with their results, I think it's fair to say. Anyway, Bury battered Colne 4-0, and it put them 2 points behind Ramsbottom with a game in hand. That game in hand came on Tuesday night against Earlham, and they could manage only a draw. So now they're 1 point behind Ramsbottom, but have played the same amount of games, which is absolutely stunning when you think that they were 9 points behind Ramsbottom with 7 games in hand at 1 point.
And to rub salt into the wounds, Chadderton played on Saturday. They were the other fixture that managed to survive, and they managed to keep the heat on the leaders by beating Glossop 4-2. And then on Wednesday night, they took advantage of Bury's draw as they beat Litherland Remica 3-1 and moved above Ramsbottom to take the top spot.
They do. Ramsbottom do have a game in hand on Chadderton. So it's really
very much in Ramsbottom's hands.
Yeah, it is still in Ramsbottom's hands.
But it is now, isn't it? Because those 9 points behind with 7 games in hand now, from Bury's perspective, is just absolutely counts for nothing. But then it does raise the question whether their exploits in the cup have sort of hindered the progress in the league.
You would think so, at least on paper anyway. It's not it's a squad that's sort of still playing out every single competition, and it's there's not much room for chop and change. So that core group of players are playing every single game, whether it's the FA Vase or the FA Cup, whichever competition they're going into. There's a core group of players that are still having to play. So you wonder whether fatigue is going to be settling in here. But I think it also probably speaks a lot for Chadderton's and Ramsbottom's consistency, and that they're still up there.
Well, Chadderton at top of the footing table anyway, aren't they?
They really are.
6 consecutive wins in the last 6 games.
Yeah.
Only just above Lower Breck, as we know, have been doing a magnificent job as well.
Yeah, they absolutely have. Yeah, I think it's easy to get carried away and say that Bury have wobbled, Bury aren't running away with it, etc. We forget that we're only halfway through the season. There's still about 20 odd league games still to play, so Bury could still run away with this. They could still overhaul Chadderton and Ramsbottom and take the title.
Well, I think we mentioned it in last week's episode, didn't we? It's the beginning of the funny season.
Yeah, it is.
The Christmas fixtures and what have you.
Yeah.
A lot of points can be taken, a lot of points can be lost, and it'll be interesting to see what we're looking at come the new year. But one thing it's definitely done is made it really, really interesting.
It has made it very interesting. Yeah, it's for a neutral, it's probably as good as it possibly can be. There's three teams kind of fighting it out, and I think it probably is three. I mean, we haven't really mentioned Lower Breck in the same breath as Bury, Chadderton and Ramsbottom, but they are only 4 points back of Bury, or having played a game more. So you would really never say never as far as Lower Breck are concerned. And I think by the time we get to the end of January, maybe even the middle of February, we'll have a much clearer idea of whether this is going to be a 4-horse race or less.
So then we have the midweek games then, didn't we? And Bearscough returned to winning ways with a comfortable 3-1 win against high-flying West Didsbury and Chorlton. But to be fair, West Didsbury and Chorlton have lost 4 of their last 6 games.
Yes.
So their form has not been the greatest. But we did predict that Bearscough were coming into a bit of form. I think they lost against Bury the week before, 4-2.
They did, yeah.
But it was a case of a game of 2 halves. In the second half, they looked like what they're capable of doing. And I think Bearscough have turned a bit of a corner there with that victory against West Didsbury.
Yeah, they absolutely did. So all their goals came within a 5-minute stretch of time at the end of the first half. So Stephen Rigby's opened the scoring, and then Sam Turner's helped himself to 2 in 3 minutes to put them seemingly in control of the game at half-time. West Didsbury and Chorlton have got a goal back through Victor Abadaki, but it's sort of merely been scant consolation. And Bearscough, after losing 3 straight games, they've now got 2 wins sandwiched between that loss to Bury. So things are starting to kind of go on the up and up for them. So they will look to kind of cement their place in the middle of the park and see where it gets them. They're not far behind Cheadletown, Abbey Hay and Charlotte Richard as far as the table is concerned.
And there was absolutely no action at all in Division 1 North or South.
No, there wasn't.
From our perspective, it was a week off. A good week off, considering we'd had our first win. I don't think it was.
I mean, I think we could have played that game. I don't think the weather was that bad.
Right, okay. Did you see my video?
Yes, I saw the video of the behind the goal.
The melodramatic
collapsing in on itself, and the advertising board sort of being ripped apart from the from the steel gate. And yes, I saw that.
I had to go and see it for myself, you see, because the one thing that managers don't want to do when they're off the back of a victory is they want to keep the momentum going.
Of course they do.
You can totally understand that.
Of course they do.
And Tommy's saying to me, we have to play this game at all costs. And I understand that, and we would have done if we could have done. But I thought, I've got to go and see this for myself, because I stood outside my own house. And as you know, I'm in a semi-rural area, and the wind blows here every day of the year, to be perfectly honest.
Yes, it does.
But I stood outside and I thought to myself, it's not that bad, really. But I thought, no, I better go down, because Paul Gilchrist had been in touch with me and said, listen, it's a mess down here. The league would be best advised to call this game off. So, a few emails were passed to and fro, and I thought I'll go down just to make sure and take a video of the community ground. When I got to the car park, I could see that the support fence, the netting, had started to bend.
Yes, it had.
And buckle, and then I went onto the ground itself. Now, I was probably there for about 15 minutes, and I had brain freeze. I mean, it's just not. It's not at the best of times the best place for a baldy bloke. The community stadium, it really isn't.
It's not.
So I had brain freeze. So I tried everything. I walked around the pitch. I walked on the pitch, and all I could see was a mess of sort of portable goals flying here, there, and everywhere. Advertising boardings on the floor, bins flying about. And I think the one thing that people didn't factor into any of it was that even if we had have started the game, there was no guarantee that the power would stay on, because you know what it's like around these areas when there's a little bit of wind, we end up with a power cut. So that was another thing to worry about. It still didn't stop Rowena. Rowena was up at the Cracker Sparrows to cook all the food for hospitality. She didn't know which way it was going to go. We didn't get it confirmed until around about 10 o'clock, I think it was, that we had the right to call off the game ourselves.
And even then, I don't think the game was called off until something past 11, was it?
Well, it was 10:15 officially, but it didn't get out onto social media as quick as it should have done. And certainly, the Northwest counties would have had their work cut out as well, translating that information over to us as well. So yeah, listen, it was bad. The weather was really, really bad. I think it was a wise decision to call the game off. I personally, I was more worried about Steeton, who would have had to travel from Bury over the Pennines, Bradford over the Pennines.
Yeah, and then across around Manchester.
Yeah, listen, that's a crazy journey in that kind of weather. Yeah, and even had it calmed down, it was just the fact that they were leaving about 11:15. Yeah. That would have been a nightmare journey. It wouldn't have been one that I'd have fancied contemplating myself.
No. So when we go back for the return fixture, we've got to make sure that it's good weather before we go. I think as far as the club is concerned and the players, I think this was the kind of interference that we could have really done without. You know, the club as a whole is on a high after that amazing win at Main Road. And I think, the players are kind of riding that wave of euphoria themselves. I think it was a perfect time to play an opposition who, in every respect to Steeton, but they're down where we are. Maybe not numerically, they are a little bit further away from us, but they're still within reach. So we could have had every opportunity to take another win there, especially kind of considering what had preceded it. So it is bitterly disappointing. From
a good perspective, though, there's a little bit more balance in the new year, because we've got 10 games as opposed to the 9 games we would have had, because the Steeton game is now going to be played on the 1st of February, is it?
It is, yes. So we are going to have a bit more of a balance as per the season.
We had 1 game in 7 weeks, didn't we? I think.
Across February we've got one game. Well, we don't anymore. We have 2, but I think it probably sort of shows the unevenness of the league and the fixture list. So we've still got that momentum. Neither of us were at training on Wednesday night, but from what I heard, there were plenty of positives.
There always is at the moment. It's I've not spoken to Tommy today, unusually.
Yeah.
But I've been that busy, as you know.
Yes.
So I've not had the opportunity. But yeah, listen, we've mentioned it before. The team are coming together well now. There's a great deal of camaraderie between them. Listen, we'll come to predictions in the last part of the show. We're doing it slightly different this week, but we'll come to that and we'll discuss our game at Holker on Saturday in the last part of the show. But listen, the biggest game of the weekend arguably is the FA Vars third round match between Atherton LR and Ashton Town.
Yes.
It's a difficult one to call. Atherton have had a sort of mini blip recently, if you can call it that, with just one win in 3 games, whereas Ashton's season has been topsy-turvy from the start.
Yes.
But they've met each other 3 times so far this season, 2 draws in the league, and a win in a win for Ashton Town in the Macron Cup. So this definitely could go either way. And listen, after the commercial break, we'll be speaking to Ashton Town's manager, Kevin Towey. Don't go anywhere. Special shout out to all the businesses that support Skelmersdale United Football Club, Origin Sign Company, T&W Garners, 7PDS, Skem Express Cars 5005, Lease Car UK, RNB Auto Centre, SB Skills Solutions and Hey Presto Web Design. Thank you to everyone who donates to the club, supports our race nights, raffles and the lottery bonus ball scheme, and of course the last man standing. A special thanks to those who organise these fundraising events, especially the incredible Lee Davis and Lucas Bergquist. To all who stand by us both on and off the field, we are truly grateful. If you wish to sponsor the show, please contact me at chairman.skemutdfc@gmail.com or call me on 07766 054 548. All proceeds will go to Skelmersdale United Football Club. Thank you for your unwavering support. Hello and welcome to Kevin Towey, manager of Ashton Town. It's an absolute privilege and honour to have Ashton Town's manager Kevin Towey on the show. Welcome, Kev.
Hi Frank, how are you?
Not so bad, not so bad. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Good. Listen, before discussing your last couple of seasons at Ashton Town, I'd like to point out that you did the brilliant Football on Draft podcast with Andy Burgess and Keith Heckingbottom. Not so long back, you discussed your career in football as a kid growing up and starting in academy football, and it didn't quite work out for you for many reasons. As your parents went through a messy divorce, life got in the way of everything, as you alluded to on the show. I assume that played a big part in how you developed as a youngster, and fitting in with certain clubs became a significant factor.
I don't know, I wouldn't like to blame my parents. I think I was the problem. Yeah, I think just through me not working hard enough was the main factor, Frank. That's my take on it as a 40-year-old man looking back, and I try and kind of pass that knowledge on to younger players now when I can see it. I can see it within them, and they're not working to the full potential or treating football as it should be if they want to get the most out of it.
Yeah. And listen, you've obviously gone on to carve a brilliant career out of non-league football with over 700 appearances and 300 goals plus. You've watched people like Sean McConville, who you replaced at Skem, have stellar football careers. So what is your message to young players starting out and having to deal with disappointment?
That's a good question, really. It caught me a bit there, but I think you've got it comes from the parents building up a resilience. I see a lot of parents either posting on social media about taking their kid here, taking the kid there, and some of these young boys are at academies 4, 5, 6 days a week and different ones. I think that is the problem sometimes, that the parents kind of build them up and they have their own ego to fill, rather than building the kid up to say, look, this may not be the outcome, it may be like this from a young age. I think that needs to be instilled to players.
Were your parents very much like that, or?
I think the era was definitely different, but it was different back then, Frank. It was different where my mum didn't really get involved. She'd come to games and she shouted and made a lot of noise, but my dad was the quiet one who'd pull me after games and we'd talk about things, but he was always very level wherever I went, not to let me get ahead of myself. But again, I think nowadays you go to football, it's a much more back then it was male dominated, so dads took, but now the mums come to games and everything. It's a lot more of an even balance. So yeah.
Listen, I'm fortunate enough to have witnessed you playing for Skem as I was chairman when you replaced Sean. You were a hell of a player and scored goals for fun. As Tommy Lawson was churning out player after player, farming them out to the Conference Football League and etc. Was it difficult for you watching that process and not breaking through yourself?
At the time, it was. And you're probably aware, because Tommy probably relayed it in real time, that I was a bit of a nuisance with training. Not necessarily a bad attitude, because there was once when I come in the January and replaced Sean, whatever his record had been from kind of the start of the season to the end in terms of goals per game, I then bettered from January to the end of the season. So I felt like I was at a level that was able to get somewhere, but because of my shortcomings in how I did things, that I suppose that looking back, that held me back. And then the second season, I was on non-contract, so Tommy could have just got rid of me, but he spent a lot of the time with me on the bench, and I think when I speak to him afterwards, he was like, "You were good for the group," which isn't what you want to be there for football, but I'm actually glad that my personality was that way. Lads liked being around me, and it also got me a little bit extra because Tommy kind of put up with me, because I was a little bit of that for the dressing room, and then whenever I get my chance, I was professional about things. Yeah.
Listen, it was difficult for us as well because we were losing. We didn't know, how many players we were going to lose, how long we had them with us. So when we had you at the club, you were a really instrumental part of the football club.
Yeah, I remember coming in and thinking it was massive shoes to fill, because Sean's an unbelievable player. And then I was able to do that and kick on. And then the second season, kind of, I think I had the chance to go to Meridian, and I remember sitting with you and Tommy and talking me down and me staying. And then it just went on the decline a bit, and I was, like you said, I was seeing the likes of Aaron Turner and Chris Almond and Carl Ledgem all getting moves and playing in the conference. And I was training and playing with these lads week in, week out, and I'd like to think even now they'd go, ability-wise, I was as good as, if not better than some of them players. But it's not all about ability, and going back to earlier on when we said advice for young players, that's one thing I hold to, and make sure that they realise it's not just about ability.
Mm-hmm. The pleasing thing for us, of course, was that once one player had gone, Tommy seemed to have a knack at bringing quality players in.
Oh, it was unbelievable. There was that time, wasn't there? I was there kind of 2009, 10 and 11, and a couple of years before and right up until a couple of years after, when you ended up in the Northern Premier League Premier Division, he just churned them out. And I don't think they'll ever be like Tommy again, because I'm speaking of the past tense here, but I mean as a manager, there won't be that sort of manager, because everything's open everywhere now with social media and stuff, whereas Tommy went and did the hard work himself. So he'd be at games and he'd unearth stuff before seeing it. Everything's readily available, so it's just one big rat race now for people to fight for that player, whereas Tommy had found them without anybody else knowing about them.
Yeah, Tommy calls it lazy management now.
He's right, but it's a thing that a lot of managers do, and I'm not deeply involved in social media and stuff, so I have to kind of do it the old school way and a little bit of a dinosaur, but I like it that way. There's a lot of nonsense and pretend people on these platforms where, we're football friends. No, you're not. Everyone's out to get what they can for themselves, and I'm all right with saying that.
Listen, just going back to your football career, hindsight is wonderful, but do you think if you'd sort of knuckled down a little bit, got your head down and been more disciplined, you'd have stayed? If you'd have stayed at Skem, do you think you'd have got the move that you felt you deserved?
I would have definitely got it. Tommy would have opened that door, but I'm still really, really good pals with him. Even after leaving, I used to ring Tommy for advice and stuff as I got older and wiser, and even to today, we still have kind of probably speak once a month, and he definitely would have opened them doors. And it's only now you see that managers talk. So whilst if another manager's asked me about a player, I'd say, look, he's got this attribute, this attribute, this attribute, but he doesn't train, he doesn't look after himself, all these sort of things, and it puts people off, and that's obviously what was happening. Tommy's been quite honest about that, and I'm all right with that, but it's sad that I didn't have the education to realise that was what was happening, or that was what would happen if you didn't kind of knuckle down. Whereas other players just told the line and were just got on with the job. I kind of did it my way.
Funny you should say that, because a lot of ex-players have come up with the same principle, haven't they? That if they'd have knuckled down a little bit further, they'd have been better educated. They would have done better in their careers. I think Kenny was one of the players that have gone on into crime, or just not managed their football, not continued in football. They've ended up going down the wrong path.
Yeah, definitely. There's a few lads who I played with, kind of growing up and then into youth level, and also that dropped into non-league, who've been really good players at pro clubs and fell out of the game and then got involved in things that they would have never been involved in had they have had the opportunity or worked harder to maintain that direction that they were going in originally, and it's sad, really.
Mm. So listen, I think the best way of describing you is you're a bit of a maverick, and probably by your own admission. The unorthodox way you've handled yourself probably stunted your career. As a manager now, how do you deal with similar types of players?
It's brilliant. I don't seem to have them, because I seem to recognise them really quick, Frank. So I either fix them really quick, or if I'm unable to fix them, just do what Tommy did and just discard them. So yeah, but I do afford them more time than Tommy afforded them, because and this is no slight, he was fantastic for me, and I love him to this day, but he could have probably pulled me and just kind of moulded me a little bit better. Whether it would have worked, I don't know, but I would have liked him to have done that. But now that's what I try and do, and I afford players who I feel have got shortcomings for one reason or another, that little bit extra time, just to see if I can squeeze more out of them. I enjoy the challenge, but I regularly revert to my own stories or tales of stupidness if they start to do little things, and where it will end, where it'll probably end up. So they've got a decision to make.
Do you often find that maverick people make maverick players?
I don't know.
Great question.
Yeah, the word maverick, when you think about it, and you think of players, because I grew up in watching football in the 90s and stuff, and like I alluded to in the podcast I did the other week, there was a lot of mavericks about then. The biggest one that comes to mind is Paolo Di Canio, who is just nuts, but what a player. But you hear tales of him now, even as a manager, and he's just crazy, but he was an ultra professional. In answer to your question, I do find that it goes with the personality. It goes them traits of doing it their way, being confident enough to elaborate on that, and to be able to have the I'm trying to do it without swearing, to have the stones to be able to go, I don't care, I'm doing it this way, and whether you like it or not, there's plenty of times in games where I've either scored a goal or done something out of the ordinary, but then there's been plenty of times where I've done it and give the ball away. So it's that kind of fine margin of risk and reward.
Have you ever met your match in terms of the players that you've churned out yourself? And have you managed to turn anyone around? Anybody being as difficult as you were back in the day?
No. The closest, and when I say the closest, we differ, but he's 100 mile an hour. It's Mike Phoenix.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I had Mike Phoenix for it was only for last pre-season, and it didn't transpire that we continued together, because he was at a time in his life where he was dealing with his own demons, and I don't think that allowed him to knuckle down. But he was 1,000,000 mile an hour, and he's got himself sorted now, which is great news. I see him on social media regularly, and he's looking after himself. He's got himself a missus and a family who he's kind of concentrating on. So Mike's probably the closest in terms of how erratic he was, but he was also still then 34, I think he is. Fantastic footballer.
Yeah, huge character, and like you say, he has reformed himself, which is good.
He has, yeah. Hopefully that can continue for him.
Yeah. Listen, you moved into player management at Barnton as joint manager. I believe that was after a period of time when you fell out of love with football.
Yeah, so I'd left Skem and I joined Runcorn Linnets, which is where I'm from. I'd been a Runcorn fan since I was kind of 10 years old, so it was something I really wanted to do. It was a step down because it was into the Northwest Counties. So at the time I was kind of only 26, and I could have definitely still played higher, but I just went and played there under Paul McNally, because he'd left Skem and he kind of reached out and said, come and join us. We'll get you enjoying it again. And he did for probably a season or so, and I just got kind of fed up, Frank, with the Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, the regime of non-league.
Yeah.
I just kind of got fed up with that. And then, so by this time I'm probably 28. And an opportunity came along with me mate Ian Ross, who Barnton were rock bottom of the Cheshire second division, and I'd been at Barnton as a youngster, as kind of an 18-year-old. So it held a place in my heart, and I thought, well, how good would it be to try and get these from something to nothing? And long story short, we ended up taking them from the bottom of the Cheshire second division into the Northwest Counties. So it was 2 promotions, of which I was only part of the first one, because by the time they got up to the Prem, I'd refound my love and rejoined Runcorn. Yeah.
And you obviously started playing again at that point and still banging the goals away.
Yeah, well, I carried on I was player manager at Barnton, and the Cheshire League at that time, being a 28-year-old when I should be in my prime, I scored 50 odd goals that season, and it was relatively comfortable, as it should be for, if you took a player, a player who scores regular goals in the Northern Premier League now and put him into that division, that should happen. And then I went back to Runcorn and found my love for it again. By this time I'm kind of 30, and my attitude had totally changed to football. Like, I was desperate to work as hard as I could, because I didn't know when it was going to finish.
What brought that on?
Age, maturity, having the opportunities that I'd had earlier in life, and I don't know if abusing them's the right word, but certainly not appreciating them.
Does that annoy you now then when you look back? Because you obviously had the ability to change. Do you feel as though you could have changed much earlier?
With the guidance, I didn't have the guidance, Frank. I was kind of a lone ranger. I didn't have anybody steering me or helping me. By that time, my half fella had stopped coming to games, kind of, and I'm going back to mid-20s now. I'm a man and I'm doing my own thing, and I didn't really have any guidance or somebody who could help me. And going back to saying what I thought Tommy could have done for me, I think that's what I needed. And it was only really when I was that age, 30, Joey Dunn got hold of me at Runcorn, and he kind of gave me a shake and told me how good I was, but told me what I needed to do to stay like that and to continue. And he used a little bit of himself, his own experience, being a similar age, not the kind of the mayhem that I was, but more that he got to 30, and this is what he had to do with his body, and he worked hard, and he played his best. He said he played his best years from like 30 to 34, I think. And the same happened with me from 30 to 35. I probably scored 150 goals, over 150 goals in them 5 years. They were like me real peak years, purely because Joey had given me some guidance.
Yeah. So, how did the gig at Widnes come along?
So we was at Barnton and we'd won the playoffs of the North West Counties First Division, and then the chairman Rossi, he was at Barnton on his own, and it was a bit of a struggle because he was financing it himself. So he then went and joined up with Widnes, and there was a consortium of guys who kind of all on the board. So the burden, the financial burden was shared. He went and joined that and become chairman there, and he took me in a couple of players, the likes of Mike Burke, Kev Pollard, to name a few, the Chrissy Lomax. Took us to Widnes. We had a shaky start under the Pritch and Danny Meadowcroft, and Joey Dunn come in. We won the league that year with Joey. We went like an absolute train, won the league. And then Joey resigned the following year, and he resigned on the Thursday night, and when it all got out, Rossi just phoned me and said, look, I know this team can do something, do you want to take it on? And at the time, Steve Ackley was injured, and he's obviously one of my best mates, and he was playing for us as well. We'd signed Steve by then, and I said, look, I don't really want to do it on my own, because I was still playing, and I was playing well, scoring regularly. I wasn't ready to finish. Steve had a long-term injury, so I said, look, if we do it between us, even if we're both playing, we can juggle and manage it, and again share the burden. And we took it on, so that's how it happened. We took it from there, and
well, you went on to win the North West Counties Cup, and you managed to get promotion with Widnes. Yeah. But you sort of went into a little bit of a moment again, a bit of a dip, a bit of self-doubt crept in. I don't know what it was, but you decided to leave after 4 years?
I think it was what is it? It was nearly 3 years in charge. Was it nearly? Oh, my mind's gone here, Frank. So we took the job in the autumn of 2017, and we left. So we had 4 years. We left in the just as the season was a couple of weeks old in 2021, I believe. I think that's right. I've got me date right there. So 4 years. I felt it just between the board and Steve and I, we probably felt we just taken it as far as we could. We got them promoted, so they were sat within the NPL, and we had the first season we finished mid-table. Then the second and third season were them COVID seasons. So one was kind of a 2/3 season, and the other one was a non-entity really. On both of them, we were sat mid-table. And then we had a bad start to what would have been our fourth year. And when I say a bad start, we were playing really well, just couldn't put the ball in the net. But by this time, I'd be like 35, 36. So I wasn't able to affect it as a player as I had done in previous year. And as you well know, Frank, they come at a premium, goal scorers, and they come with sometimes a bit of a price tag. And we didn't have the budget to be able to go and do that. It would have meant taking away from other parts of the team.
Yeah, and listen, Skem could do with a Kev Towey right now, couldn't they?
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest with you. But listen, I'm just thinking though, like you said there, I think you had a little bit of doubt that you should have left Widnes at one stage. You felt as though you could have given it a little bit more. So is it that return of self-doubt, or was it just purely down to the fact that you'd got to the end of your playing years and making the transition from being a player manager to a full-time manager was more difficult?
No, it wasn't that. The relationship that I had with all of the board at Widnes, there's kind of, at the time, there's probably 4 or 5 fellas on the board, and the relationship we had with all them was a really good one. On a footballing perspective and on a personal note as well, we become I suppose we become pals. But with that, meant that we could be really honest with each other, without upsetting each other. So part of that honesty was a conversation, or there've been probably 2 or 3 conversations over the course of it throughout COVID and stuff, of where the club was at and where we could take it and what we could do with it. And we weren't able to kind of kick it on. So from getting it promoted to stagnating would be probably the right word in the Northern Premier League, we didn't feel like we could take it any further, and it's cutting guys, and we all agreed that. So that's how we left it. And it was only after the fact, in the couple of years that preceded, that I felt that I probably had gone too soon, and the club hadn't gone any further. The club hadn't gone any further in that time. They have now. Elo's doing an unbelievable job. He's punching well above his weight in what they're doing, which is boss to see. But up until now, it just been the same in terms of where they were in the league.
Yeah.
So by the time you've sort of left Widnes, you end up sort of having a year out of management, and then obviously you come back in with Ashton Town. Was it your choice to sit out of management for a year, or were there sort of contributing factors?
No, it was the first time. It was the first time in my life I'd been out of football. From being a kid to transitioning into a full-time youth team player and touching on full-time footy, and then going into non-league, which, like I said before, you've got that Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday regime, week in, week out, from the beginning of July right the way through till the mid-May. And at first it was a little bit of a shock to the system, but then it was nice to kind of have some family time. I had my little lad had been born. He was probably 2 at the time, so I had some time with him. But then you start getting cold feet. So I then started looking around, and I interviewed for a couple of Northern Premier League jobs, and got some mad excuses from chairman as to why I didn't get the job.
I was going to mention that, because there are a plethora of young managers breaking through at non-league level. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And you and Dave Jones, who we'll talk about in a minute, you sort of epitomise that. And it's quite refreshing. And I know you've gone on record as saying that a lot of chairmen overlook the younger, hungrier prospects. But I believe it is changing very quickly. So I'd ask the question, what advice would you give up-and-coming managers and those chairmen who aren't too sure about taking a chance on the likes of a Kevin Towey or a Davy Jones?
My problem isn't chairman or board not taking chances on younger managers, and I think that Dave won't like you for putting him in the same age bracket as me, by the way. I'm a lot older than Dave.
Yeah. I know, yeah. But you're relatively young as a manager, aren't you?
In terms of manager, yeah, just a lot older than Dave. But my problem is with the whole of non-league, and the lack of due diligence that is done by boards and chairmen, and again, you'll know firsthand on how far you've gone yourself in doing this. And I just think we live in an age now where people have access to records and are able to look up who's actually done what in the game. And I don't mean they've done their A licence because they've read a book. I mean they've managed this, and they've won this amount of games, and they've won these trophies, and so you can check all that out. But there's far too many expert CV writers.
Definitely. I mean, listen, I've witnessed it a few times now when we've been sifting through CVs from managers, and I take on board what you said about they've got several jackets hanging up in the wardrobes, and it's the same sort of conveyor belt of of managers coming through when you receive these CVs. So I know what you mean, and a lot of them, paint a different picture to what you can actually read, what you can actually find out from Google. So it never ceases to amaze me that they're still bigging themselves up, even when the facts and figures don't stack up.
That's it, Frank. And but when you look and even if they went, well, what have you actually won, or at what point have you been promoted? And the answer would be, I haven't. So that's the thing. Now, if you took a club, you don't necessarily have to win something, but if you took something and it's far more shinier now than it was when you picked it up, then that in itself is a success. But there's far too many who just have glittering CVs, but if you shook them, the words would fall off the paper.
Yeah. So why was it then that Chris Wright at Ashton Town, why was he different? What was it that kind of attracted you to Ashton and to Chris's way of working?
Nothing attracted me to Ashton, and when I say that, you'll have to let me put some context behind that.
Yeah, please.
As a player, whenever I'd visited Ashton, it was a dull place. It was a place where you went and you picked up 3 points, and it wasn't somewhere that I ever liked. It wasn't a welcoming place, and that's not for the people. It was just the feel you got in and around, and I could reel off many more grounds that I've played in where I felt like that, where I thought, you know what, why would I want to play here? So when Chris rang me, the first thing that comes into my head is all my experiences as a player, and I'm playing against them, thinking that's gonna be a tough gig, that. But when I went to see him and I sat with him, and he told me about the vision and how he would support that vision, it was impossible to say no to, because I've only had two jobs. I was at Widnes for 4 years as the manager, and I've been at Ashton for just over 2 years. I'm not one who wants a load of coats in the cupboard at home. I want some longevity. I want a project. I want something what I can get my teeth into. I don't need to be a football league manager, and that's not through lack of ambition. I have a really good day job which I enjoy doing. So the football is like an outlet for me. It's a hobby. I don't need to do people over or jump from club to club to get to the football league where I want to be. That's my take on things.
Well, that makes absolute sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Listen, you've had a good start, haven't you? In the last 2 years, you managed to get Ashton to the playoff finals last season. Unfortunately, bowing out on penalties, which must have been really, really difficult.
Oh, it was a bitter pill to swallow. Yeah. I don't know if that's because I couldn't take one of the penalties, or it was just it was my first experience of seeing the group of players that we put together. Like seeing one of your kids when they're hurt or when they're in distress. It was the same sort of thing, because we've been lucky at Widnes where we've been promoted. We won a couple of cups, so we hadn't experienced that one-off game where it all just gets taken away, because in both the cup finals we played, we won, we got promoted, and while we kind of stagnated in the league as the time went on, it was still really good. So that was the first time I experienced that, and to see them players to go through that, who had worked so hard all season, but it's the nature of the beast. You have to suck it up and take it and be stronger for it.
Tommy says that probably one of the best ways to get promoted is through the playoff finals. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah, it's also the worst.
Yeah, I was going to say that a reflection on that is it's the worst way of going out as well. I mean, back in the day, my last season at Skem United, first time round, we played. We were sort of neck and neck with Chester, and if we'd have scored one goal more or they'd scored one goal less, we'd have been promoted. And then, of course, the playoffs after that, it was just miserable. The semi-final, it was a boring 1-0 defeat, I think, against AFC Fylde. It just took the wind out of our sails completely. It was a horrible feeling.
Yeah, and as a player, you know, you remember, Frank, I was fortunate or unfortunate, all the word is, to be in some of them Skem playoff finals where I remember us going neck and neck with Durham to the title, and if you remember, on the last day at half time we're 2-0 up against Kers and Ashton, and they're 2-0 down against Mosley, I think, or Woodley Sports, whoever it was, somewhere Manchester based, and the way the scores were, us 2-0 up and them 2-0 down, we won the league and they were going into the playoffs, and they spin it round and win 4-3 and we win 4-0. We end up in the playoffs points and points ahead in second place, and we got beat on the Tuesday night against Kers and Ashton, who we beat 4-0 on the Saturday, because they were able to rest everybody, and we were kind of gunning for it, as we had been for week after week after week. So I've experienced it as a player, the heartbreak of the playoffs, and it's a really difficult one to deal with. And I remember speaking to Tommy in the days after the playoff final, just to seek some solace on his experience, to go, how do we deal with this?
Yeah. So into this season, and Kev, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Ashton could get to the playoffs. Sort of where you are in the league right now, would you say it's more of a rebuild for next season that you're looking at?
Well, I think that the balance of probability as a betting man, without the odds heavily stacked against us. So there's two facets. There's the one where you can't give up and you don't stop trying to get to the target that you had until it's totally out of the out of the picture. And then there's the other one to go, well, worst case scenario, we keep whatever players we feel can take us through to next season, and also those people that are going to be good for us up until the end of this season, because we've got some fantastic players who we may well lose at the end of the season. Mike Burke being a case in point in that he's 39 now. He's still one of our most consistent performers, but he's going to come to a stage where he goes, I've done enough for football.
It's going to come to a stage where he stands still, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like you say, he's not going to get any quicker, is he now?
Yeah,
he's been a cracking player, by the way.
He's been unbelievable. To play alongside and to manage his work ethic and his kind of outlook on things. He's ever professional. He sets the standard. And
what's his thinking now, though, Kev? Is he thinking of his end game now?
Mike's a really laid-back character off the pitch. He's quite animated on it, but he's really laid back off the pitch, and he's just got married in the summer just gone. So I anticipate at some stage him and his new missus are going to be thinking about a family and stuff, and I know that changes people's commitments and time and stuff once we get to that. So when he signed for me 18 months ago as a 37-year-old, he said, I've got 2 more years left in me. Now, I thought he was going to say 1, which I would have been happy with. Yeah. And he said 2, so I thought, sound, but I'll see how he does after the first one, because he's 38 now. Yeah. And he's been great. He's been great. And if the only thing I get from him is the next kind of 4 or 5 months, I'll be very happy.
Yeah, listen, I watched him last season. I've watched him this season. You feel as though he could still do a job next season?
We'll let him tell that. It's something I haven't broached with him. I don't want to upset myself or upset him, so I'm kind of leaving that until we really have to.
Yeah, I mean he could turn into another Kevin Ellison, couldn't he? Carry on playing. Is he mid-40s now? Is he something like that? Crikey.
Yeah, Kev's probably 40, 46.
Yeah.
No, I'm not doing him a disservice there. He's doing ever so well. He's still banging him in the MPL.
Yeah, definitely. So listen, you've managed to get Ashton Town to its furthest point in the FA Vase, the 3rd round. You play Everton LR on Saturday. It's a huge game and a good chance to take them even further. How big is the game for you and the club?
It's a really exciting game. How big is it? It's I think you just said there, it's the furthest that this footy club's ever gone in the Vase. So in terms of the FA Vase, it's the biggest game the club's ever played. It's the VARs is something that's not been kind to me over the years as a player, even at Runcorn Linnets when we were top of the Premier Division. We never really seemed to have a good run in it. We'd always end up losing in silly circumstances, whether it be someone sent off or penalties or we never seem to have the rub of the green in it. But this season's been really good. I think we've won definitely 4, maybe 5 games already. What is it, the third round? Did you say? Sorry.
Yeah, third round.
Won the first, second quality. Yeah, so we've won 4 games in it already. So that the club have earned a few quid off it, and we've got Gaz Kenny in our group who, when we talk about luck, he's won it with Rylands. He was the skipper at Rylands when we won it. Who's Mike Burke's partner. So if we're looking for omens, it's a competition that.
And listen, you're pitting your wits against Davy Jones, as we mentioned before. I mean, if you look at 2 great managers in the Northwest Counties, there's definitely 2 of them in you and Dave. So you've already got, I think it's 2 wins and a draw against Atherton, is it? 1 win and 2 draws.
A win and 2 draws, and we seem to kind of play each other every month, and I'm sure Dave will agree with this. And it was the same last season. But when we talk about young managers, he's doing an unbelievable job in what he's done with that football club. Because again, Atherton, very much like Ashton, over the years has predominantly been a club that's languished at the lower ends of the divisions, and the first division being one that's been there for a while. So for him to get them to the playoff semis last year and to have them at the top of the pile this year, look, it'd be stupid to say that he isn't good at what he does. He's doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Listen, you obviously fancy your chances. I'm pretty sure Dave does as well.
Yeah. Whatever we gets thrown at us. In the last 2 weeks, we played Charnock Richard on Tuesday night, who were the Prem side, and then we played Runcorn Linnets last Tuesday, who were an NPL side, and in both games we matched them. And while they may have rotated the squad, it was the 16 on both occasions, or predominantly the 16 on both occasions. And when our players reach the levels that they can reach, we're as good as anybody, certainly in our division. The problem that we've had this season is we've not reached them levels on a consistent enough basis to enable us to be further up the table. So if we can do that on Saturday, we'll be okay.
And moving forward, what's the plan for Kevin Towey?
To continue this journey, trying to get this football club out of the division, and whether that's this year or next year, I kind of signed for 2 years in the summer just gone. And while there's been some challenging times this season, we lost our goalkeeper on the eve of the season, who said he had an opportunity 3 divisions above. So it was hard to take, but then it took us kind of 5-6 games to try and get going, and before we knew it, we were 10-12 games in before we were able to replace him. And then we replaced him with Connor Easton, and then he's out for 2 months. He got injured a few weeks ago, so it's been difficult for us to deal with that, because it's such a focal point, mate. So just to try and rebuild that side of things, and hopefully wait for Connor to come back, and then have a really good finish to the season that either gets us in the playoffs and we're able to creep in there, or we get a level of consistency and form that gives us a platform to build on for next year.
Yeah, and listen, you've got a great CV from your start of management up to this point, so all bodes well for the future, Kev. Listen, best of luck on Saturday, and best of luck for the rest of the season, albeit when we play you twice. I'm hoping you're all crocked, because we need the points.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your time, Kev. All the best for the season.
Cheers, Kev. Take care. Ta-ra, mate.
Bye.
Special shout out to all the businesses that support Skelmersdale United Football Club: Origin Sign Company, T&W Garners, 7PDS, Schem Express Cars 5005, Lease Car UK, RNB Auto Centre, SB Skills Solutions and Hey Presto Web Design. Thank you to everyone who donates to the club, supports our race nights, raffles and the lottery bonus ball scheme, and of course the last man standing. A special thanks to those who organise these fundraising events, especially the incredible Lee Davis and Lucas Berquist. To all who stand by us both on and off the field, we are truly grateful. If you wish to sponsor the show, please contact me at chairman.schemutdfc@gmail.com or call me on 07766 054 548. All proceeds will go to Skelmersdale United Football Club. Thank you for your unwavering support. Welcome back to the final part of the show and the predictions. But first of all, thank you very much to Kevin Towey for being our special guest. What a bloke!
What a nice guy. Yeah, he's clearly lived a life in the northern. In the non-league football, both on the pitch and now off the pitch. He seems to be thriving at Ashton Town and seems to be sort of well in the groove as a gaffer. We've got to play them twice over the remainder of the season, so we'll look forward to sharing a battle and a beer with him, over those two games. Yeah,
listen, he's a great character. He was a great footballer at Schem, very, very well loved and very well respected by Tommy Lawson. Absolutely no doubt about that. Tommy can tell you a few stories about Kevin. And I think one of them was I think it was Harrogate Railway Athletic, and it might have been in the cup game. I think it might have been in the, I don't know, would it have been Harrogate? I can't remember, but it was an away game, and I think he turned up late, and Tommy said, "You're not playing. You're not even on the bench." I can't remember now, but listen, there's a great deal of mutual respect between the two, and you just listen. You wish guys like that all the best, don't you?
Yeah, you absolutely do. He's clearly an extremely likable guy. For all his faults that he believes he's had done, and all the times that his stuff has got in the way of his progression through up the footballing ladder. He's kept at it. He's kept bouncing back, and I think it's the real hallmark of a guy who never knows when he's beat.
Yeah, and listen, that's the character of the man is great as well. The very fact that there's very few managers, few and far between, that are committed to longevity in a job. Like he said, he's not seeking. He's not seeking great power or shooting up the ladder or shafting anyone.
No, he's not.
Because he very much enjoys his day job, and the football is his hobby, and I find that really, really refreshing to listen to.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, and I think Ashton Town are probably really lucky to have him, but equally, Ashton Town have given him the opportunity to kind of come in and go, look, I really want to be a football coach, and if you guys will let me do it here, then I know I can do a good job for you. Just give me a little bit of time and give me some support. And that's exactly what Ashton Town have done for him. So it really is a match made in heaven for both parties there.
Listen, and you just hope, because they are going through a little bit of a
rough ride.
A rough ride at the moment, that the club stick by him as well, which there's no reason to suggest they wouldn't. But, if he's going to give his commitment to that club, then hopefully they'll do it themselves. I think he said he signed a 2-year contract, didn't he, in the summer? He's here for another season and a half at the very least.
Absolutely. And, they've played the least amount of games in the league, in the Division 1 North. Win those 2 games in hand that they've got on the teams directly above them, they could easily find themselves comfortably, mid-table, and then it's a late run for the playoffs. There's a fair few teams that are involved in that little late run, but they could easily be one of them.
A really, really hard one to predict, really, but the Atherton LR Ashton Town game, it is at Crilly Park. Atherton have got the home advantage. They've had 2 draws in the in the league, so they're pretty neck and neck in terms of that.
Decisively, though, Ashton Town played in midweek, where Atherton haven't. So you wonder whether that would count for or against.
Yeah.
So when they played in midweek, Ashton, they were in the Macron Cup second round. They were at home to Charnock Richard, and they lost by 4-3. They were actually 3-2 up until the 85th minute. Then Charnock Richard equalised, and then in the 95th minute, Charnock Richard win a penalty to send them through. So it really is kind of heartbreaking stuff when you think about it from an Ashton Town perspective. But equally, you wonder what that will have done physically and psychologically to the players. Whether it'll galvanise them ahead of this game to say, we can take on the big boys, or whether they'll go, I can't believe we lost.
Yeah. Listen, I've said this before, and it comes to bite me back in the bum. But in terms of, exiting from the Macron Cup, it could do them a favour because, like you say, they played the fewest games in the league. They've still got this big crunch FA Vars, and I think, listen, I don't think any manager goes into any cup competition and thinks this is not a cup worth winning.
No.
So yeah, from that perspective, they'd have liked to have won midweek. They haven't, but they've got a chance in the FA Vars. Like you say,
Yes, they do.
Atherton might be a little bit rusty because they haven't played for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But I don't. Is there extra time, or does it just go straight to penalties? Straight to penalties. Now, I hope, I'm hoping Kevin will remember that, because I think he forgot the last time he was, or the first time he was in a playoff, he didn't realise it went straight to penalties. But that's another one for, that's for another show.
Yes.
But yeah, so which way do you see that going? A tight game with maybe a penalty?
Tight game with penalties, maybe. I think both managers will be accounting for the eventuality of penalties, considering how tight it's been between them. For home advantage and for the fact that they're a bit more rested, I will say Atherton for this one. But it'll be extremely tight, whether by penalties or by one goal.
Really, really tough one for me, this, because I love Kev and I love Dave. So
good fellas, aren't they?
The great fellas.
They are.
Yeah, listen, it's a tough one to call. Just wish they were meeting in another round, the final or something like that. But listen, it'd be nice to see. There's a few teams still in the northwest counties that could you could go further. What we do know is that we're going to have a presence in the fourth round, that's good either way, and that'll be the same for two teams, because we've got. Oh no, Silsden don't play in the. No, they don't play in the northwest counties anymore.
No, they don't. So
they've been moved laterally, haven't they? So yeah.
Yes, but Maghull play Ashton and Athletic in the third. So either one of those two teams will give us representation in the fourth.
Maghull. Oh, that's the Macron Cup, though, isn't it?
That's what we're talking about, isn't it?
No, we're talking about the FA Vars.
We're talking about that now.
Yeah, we're still talking about the Vars.
For crying out loud.
That's been a long week. Listen, you're full of cold.
I'm still fighting fit.
Yeah. But listen, tough one that to call, and I think that can go either way. And I'm not going to predict it. I'm not going to predict it. I'm just going to say...
Oh, Frank, don't be a spoil sport. You've got to predict it. This is what this part of the show's about. Come on.
Right, I think it'll go to penalties.
Okay. Would you like to flip a coin to see which team it is?
Crikey.
Have we got a coin?
It's a tough one, then.
Or you can pick a hand, and whichever hand's got the paper clip in it.
All right, yes. For context now, okay. AJ has got a paper clip in one of his hands. Yes. He's gone behind his back. Yep. And he's going to produce. Okay, right. So this way, it's fair.
So my left hand.
It's in your left hand.
No. That's not
your left
what I'm
hand
saying.
is Atherton.
No. So my left hand is going to be Atherton. My right hand is going to be Ashton. All right. Okay, so my left.
Oh no, I'm still gonna.
Of course you've got to pick one. Come on.
Yeah, but I'm still picking the team then.
Yes, of course you are. That's what this is about.
I'll pick the one with the. So nobody knows. I'll pick the one with the tattoo on.
So you're going to pick my right hand, which is Ashton. Which is Ashton.
Okay, then I knew I wouldn't get away with that.
He's picked Ashton.
All right.
Okay, so he thinks Ashton are going to win by penalties.
Sorry, Dave. Right.
It was the luck of the draw, mate.
Yeah. Listen, looking at the other fixtures there, Abbey. Yes. Halton United, versus Droitwich Spa.
Yes.
Listen, I'll go for a Abbey Hulton on that one, and now I've been forced into going Ashton Town.
Yes, you have to pick one.
Listen, I wish they could both win. West Didsbury versus Silsden, just purely back down to the fact that West Didsbury are not doing particularly well at the moment. Silsden, I think, are still top of their league.
Silsden are doing very,
Northern
very well.
Counties East, is it? Whatever it is.
Yeah, I think
so. I'm going to go for a Silsden one on that.
Yeah, so
Winsford versus Sutton United.
That's a tricky one, that.
It is a tricky one. I think that'll go to penalties, and I'm going to go for Winsford.
I'm going to go for Sutton on that one.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Just to let you know that we're not going through every single fixture for prediction. We just like the FA VARs, so when it pops up, we do talk about it. Yeah. So are we going to jump to the Premier Division? What do you think?
Well, listen, we'll go to the Premier Division. We won't really cover the Macron Cup other than to say that there's 3 fixtures tonight in the third round, and there is a further 2 fixtures on Saturday. But we'll jump ahead to Saturday's Premier League fixtures and Cheadle versus Litherland.
Yes, that's a 2:00 kick-off. So just bear that one in mind. Cheadle Town versus Litherland Remica. So let's look at this now. So Litherland Remica are having a mixed bag of results recently, if you like. So 3 wins and a draw from the last 6, and it's been very much a win-loss back and forth over the last sort of 4 games or so. As for Cheadle, they were on a really good run of wins, 4 straight wins, which has been stunted by 2 losses. The last one of which came against Barnoldswick. They lost 3-1 at home. So it's a bit of an unusual one, really. You'd like to think that both teams are sort of in with a bit of a shout, really. There's not much separating them in terms of league position or points. So you'd think that one would be a draw, really. Yeah.
I'm listening just purely because it's Cheadle at home and they're slightly above Litherland.
You're going to say?
Yeah, well, Cheadle have got the better form, haven't they, as well? So, yeah, listen, just based on that, I'm going for Cheadle.
Fine. Okie dokie. Right. So Barnoldswick Town at home to AFC Liverpool in the 3 o'clocks. So Barnoldswick are having a reasonable run of fixtures. So they're 12th in the league, which is exactly kind of the halfway point. In terms of recent form, 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses. But like I said, they just picked up their most recent win at home to Cheadle Town. So for just on that purpose alone, I'd like to think that they probably got the edge on Remica, who themselves were
Barnoldswick.
No, they're playing Remica.
We've moved on from Cheadle. We're on Barnoldswick. We're on Barnoldswick versus AFC Liverpool, aren't we? Are we still
I was just talking about Barnoldswick. Yeah. Right, yeah. No, I'm with you.
It's been a long day.
AFC Liverpool. That's the one. 9th place in the league. And they've managed to arrest 4 straight losses by getting a win most recently. I don't know whether that's enough to kind of stop the rot. So I would say a home win there.
Yeah, topsy-turvy AFC Liverpool at the moment.
It is.
A good friend of mine there is the assistant manager, Carl Lancaster. Listen, it's a tough game for AFC Liverpool away from home. Barnoldswick's not the easiest place to go. No, it's not. Listen, all dependent on the weather. Again, I've not looked at the weather forecast, but that AFC Liverpool are used to playing on plastic, so listen, based on that, I think it'll either be a tough draw or it'll be Barnoldswick, but I'm going to put my neck out there and say Barnoldswick.
Yeah.
Now, the big game, as far as I'm concerned, in this division here is there's two of them, but Berscough versus FC St Helens.
They're contesting the Rainford Bypass Derby.
Yeah, the Rainford Bypass. Couldn't have put it better way myself.
Go.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because you know we've said Berscough turned the corner.
Yeah.
I think FC St Helens are just coming to terms with the new life in the northwest counties. They had that honeymoon period, and then they've sort of. I think they've settled, haven't they?
I think our word settle is probably one word for it. They've kind of peaked and troughed as far as their kind of last 6 games are concerned. 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses, 8 goals scored, 7 conceded. They're still just outside of the playoffs and do have 2 games in hand on FC Isle of Man. It's a bit of a tight one, really. But I do think that FC St Helens will just take it.
I'm going for Berscough. I think they've turned the corner. I think Dave Dempsey would say the same. It looks as though things are getting better for them. So yeah, I'll go for a Berscough win on that one. But what I would say is the next fixture gives Bury the opportunity to Bury versus Abbey Hay at Gig Lane. Gives them the opportunity to go top of the league on goal difference because neither Ramsbottom or Chadderton are playing this weekend.
Yeah, they're not
in the league. That is.
Yes, that's quite correct. They're both involved in cup competitions this weekend.
I think this is a big test for Bury, by the way, because Abbey Hay are not the easiest team to play against.
No, they're not, but they're not on a great run of form by any stretch of the imagination. So 1 win in the last 6 and 17 goals conceded, which is the joint 3rd most in the division over the last 6 games. They sort of briefly halted the rot. After 3 straight losses, they managed to win, but then they've lost their last 2. And going to Bury when you're on that kind of run can be a particularly horrible place. Now, Bury themselves are not on a great run of form by any stretch of the imagination. 2 wins from their last 6 and have scored 16 but conceded 14.
It's definitely a huge test of character now because
it's going to have to be. It's going to have to be because this is that kind of game where you could easily say we really need this win. Not because it's against a team that are challenging for the title, but it's a team that psychologically have their own battles. So it's a team. It's kind of a battle of who can kind of hold firm when the test arises.
We definitely said it's game on in terms of the league. Premier Division.
Yeah, 100%.
It most definitely is, and it's a test of character. We think Bury have got the ability, and I think they'll win that game quite comfortably.
Yes, I do too.
On Saturday, and then it's up to the rest of them to catch him again. Then, isn't it?
It really is.
Because there's going to be what's the word for it? There's going to be changes. There's going to be
bumps along the way.
Along the way, and nobody's going to go through the entire rest of the season without drawing or winning a game. I don't think. No. But I think it's whoever puts the best string of form together. That's going to win that league, and certainly Bury have got the capability of doing it.
They certainly do. I think they will win against Abbey Hay. That one I'm a bit more confident in saying, but as to the rest of the season, I truly couldn't tell you.
No. And Cone, Longridge, they're
Cone
both
versus Longridge,
they're both similar form. Conceding a fair amount of goals.
They are, leakiest defence in the division of Longridge in terms of the last 6 games. They're doing sort of reasonably well in the league, but 18th out of 24th. But again, conceded the most goals in the league overall, whereas Colne have, I sort of mentioned this on last week's show, have just signed Jude Entwistle from Nelson, who bagged their winning goal against Squires Gate, which kind of underlines his pedigree as a player who can find the net.
So they've got themselves back to winning ways after 3 defeats, but that said, Squires Gate haven't won a game in the last 6.
No, they haven't.
So we don't want to read too much into that.
You certainly don't, but you would sort of think Colne, they played more recently. They're maybe a bit more.
These are the games they've got to win.
Yeah, exactly. These really are the games they've got to win. So I will say a draw here.
I'll go for Colne.
You will go for Colne? Okay.
Yeah. Earlham, South Liverpool?
Yeah. Earlham obviously had that sort of decent draw against Bury. They're sort of reasonable as far as form is concerned. They're unbeaten in their last 3.
Bit of a draw specialist, aren't they, at the moment?
They do love their draws to Earlham. Yeah, they've drawn kind of 6 overall, which I think is the sort of joint 3rd most in the division. Sort of a very tight defence, which is what it's built on. So Earlham versus South Liverpool. South Liverpool sort of 21st, not having a brilliant season. They have, obviously they won their last game. So, I will say Earlham on this one.
Yeah, I'll go along with that. Mm-hmm. Earlham, definitely.
Yeah.
Pilkington.
Which takes us to Pilks.
Yeah, Pilks versus Glossop North End. Now, Glossop North End, not doing particularly well. They had a bit of a battering at Winsford in the Macron Cup on Tuesday night. Got battered 4-0.
They did.
I've not messaged or spoken to
Brodie.
Richard Brodie, but I don't know whether he's fielded a weakened squad or it's just a continuation of that sort of poor form.
They're not having a good time.
One draw in the last 6 games, but if there's ever going to be a time to resurrect themselves, then this is the ideal opportunity against.
You'd certainly hope so. Yeah, I mean, Pilks lost last time out, but
they're quite resurgent, aren't they? Really,
they've had a bit of a resurgence.
3 wins and 6 and a draw, so
exactly.
It's not going to be a walkover for Glossop. Tough one to call. That.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, sorry, Brodie, but I will say a Pilks win, but only just on this one.
Yeah, listen, I've got a foot in both camps there, like both clubs, but I'm going to go for Glossop North End on that one.
Okay, yep, fair enough. Which brings us to our evening kick-off, which is FC Isle of Man at home to Stockport Town. So FC Isle of Man, like we said, they're holding on to that last playoff place, and their form. 4 straight wins, but most recently a draw and then a loss. So you'd think being back at home, they'd probably be more than likely to kind of arrest that slide.
Yeah, big crowd there in the Isle of Man.
Yes, very much so. Stockport Town, 2 wins and 4 losses in their last 6. And 11th in the league, so sort of quite comfortably mid-table. So I'd say FC Isle of Man there.
Yeah, listen, I'm going for the Isle of Man. I'm just I can't remember who they were due to play at the weekend, but quite a few of the fans went over to the Isle of Man for the game that was never on. And crikey, I wouldn't have even contemplated flying in that. I'm assuming they flew in that. And if you'd have been a player flying over in the twin propeller aeroplane, I didn't. We didn't. Rowena and I, we travelled EasyJet. Over there, we weren't going twin propellers for anyone. But yeah, listen, our dream actually was, because I think about a week before that, I can't remember which club it was, but they they ended up getting marooned over there. Some of their supporters got marooned over there until the Thursday because both the ferries and the aeroplanes weren't travelling due to inclement weather.
Wow.
That would have been my dream last year.
Not the worst place to be marooned on.
Yeah, in February, I think it was back in February. It's a great weekend at the Isle of Man. Highly recommend it to anybody that's going over there. So. Listen, just safe flight over there, enjoy the occasion, but I'm going for the FC. Isle of Man.
Yeah.
Which moves us on to the south before we go to the north.
Absolutely.
Because that's the way
we do it on the Speaking Frankly Football Show.
That's the way we roll.
Yes, it
now,
is.
I think I've said there won't be any change at the top because both Stafford and Winsford aren't in league action.
That's correct, yeah.
So it's all about the teams at the lower echelons of the league, and it gives obviously the opportunity for the likes of Runcorn, who are playing away at New Mills. It gives them the opportunity to create a bit more space between them and the bottom three.
Yeah, it certainly does. So we start at Eccleshall, who faced Camel Laird 1907.
That was a bit premature there, wasn't it?
Was it so slightly? To Camel Laird sitting 12th in the division. Things are sort of quite tight for them at this point. 2 wins out of their last 6. Scored 15, conceded 15, which is not something that you see very often. No, not at all. Eccleshall are 10th. In the overall table and 10th in the form table as well. 2 wins out of 6 there. So you sort of put your money on draw at this point, really, wouldn't you? Yeah,
listen, I'm happy with that. Yeah, I'll go for a draw on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're pretty much well.
Yeah. So, which takes us to Foley-Mere versus Asheville. So, Foley-Mere were sort of excuse me, they've just been sort of taken over under new management in the dugout, and their first most recent game, was a rollover, if you like. They were beaten 5-1 in the Staffordshire Senior Cup second round by Stafford. Obviously Stafford flying high at the top of the table, but I don't think that game will have done Foley-Mere an awful lot of favours. Asheville are just around the playoff places, not on a brilliant run of form, but have managed to put together a couple of wins in their last 6 games. So I don't see Foley-Mere's rot stopping today. I will say an away win.
Yeah, let's not go for Asheville because they're scoring more goals, purely based on that, which, like I say, brings us to the New Mills versus Runcorn Town now.
Yeah, it does.
New Mills are not doing particularly well, but they're good positionally in the league.
Yeah, they are. They're sort of steady in 8th at the moment in time, sort of very good mid-table position. Their form isn't fantastic, though. 5 straight defeats.
Struggling to score goals.
They are.
In total opposition. So Runcorn are scoring goals for fun at the moment. 14 goals in the last 6 games.
Yeah, they really are. Obviously, they've had 1 loss and then 5 wins from that one. So it would seem like the new boys at Runcorn, who we interviewed last week on the show.
Yeah, brilliant.
Absolutely, they're patching together and then some. So you'd put your money on Runcorn there.
Yeah, I'm going for Runcorn as well. Definitely.
Yep. So Sandbach United at home to Alscott Heath. So Sandbach firmly in the running for the playoff places, and on a reasonably good run of form as well. So 3 straight wins, and 4 overall in their last 6. They're scoring, fairly well as well. Sort of 17 goals scored over 6 games. They are conceding a few, but I don't think that's really enough to worry about against Allscott Heath, who are scored 7 in 6, and they just arrested a 5-game losing streak by winning.
Listen, I think the form table speaks for itself there, doesn't it?
It really
Sandbach
does,
in a nice position, fourth.
Certainly are.
With a couple of games in hand on the team above them.
Yeah, Alsage Town.
So you've got I think it's Sandbach United all day long.
I think so too.
Shawbury, Alsage now.
Yeah.
That's the
on paper.
That's a draw.
Alsage, you're still third despite their really really bad run of form.
You just don't see it stopping at the moment.
You just can't see where the rot is going to end at this point in time. They're winless in the last 6 games, but then so are Shawbury. But where Alsage are third, Shawbury are sort of down at the bottom. They replaced Runcorn Town at the foot of the table. They're 3 points from safety from Wolverhampton Sporting Community and Foley Mere. You would think a draw here at this point.
Yeah, listen, I'm going to go for Alsage because I just think a bit like ourselves. You can't stay on a
losing run forever.
Like that forever, particularly when you're up. And listen, you just got to remind themselves that they're up there for a reason. Yeah, there might be a change in personnel. There might even be different players coming in and out. But they're still in that position. They've got everything to play for.
Yeah, I think I'll join you on that one. I'll stay an Alsage Town.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wolverhampton Sporting Community versus Cheadle Heath Nomads.
Yeah.
Both similar forms in the form table.
Reasonably,
but Cheadle are not scoring many and they're not conceding many, whereas Sporting Community have scored 10 and conceded 12.
Yeah, their form's a bit all over the place as well. I
just don't know how to call that one because...
No, I don't. Cheadle Heath Nomads are 6th and Wolverhampton Sporting Community is 17th, which I think is probably the thing I'm going to lean on the most, so I will say an away win here.
Yeah, I'll go for Cheadle with it on that one.
There you go.
Brings us back. Because we go backwards to come forwards, don't we? Or we go forwards to come backwards?
We always go backwards to come forwards because at the end of the day we have to move forwards.
Yes.
To the First Division North.
To the First Division North, and we'll get onto our fixture last of all, but there's a lot to play for here. We also know in this division there's going to be no change at the top. No. Because neither Atherton LR or Nelson are playing on in the league on that particular day.
That's correct, yeah.
So it's all about what's going on at the bottom. When we come to ours, we'll sort of focus on the fact that Holker still have an opportunity of keeping within the playoffs.
Yeah, but we'll look at that in just a second.
So Bacup Borough versus Route 1 Rovers, we all know which way we want that to go.
We certainly do.
But as we know, we played them ourselves a few weeks back and nearly pulled off a shock result. We know Route 1 Rovers are scoring goals.
They certainly are, yeah. So as far as form is concerned, Route 1 are sort of very much middle of the park. 3 wins, 3 losses. 17 goals, which is the second most in the division, which is a crazy statistic when you think that they are 16th in the league out of 18 teams. Bacup Borough, where when we played them, we found that they were a team that we believed that we could beat. We didn't end up beating them. But I wonder whether their position in the table kind of belies their form. They're sort of 3 wins and a draw over 6 games, which isn't bad going by any stretch of the imagination. But I think Route 1's firepower up front may well give them the edge here. So I will say Route 1 win.
Yeah. As I say, we know which way we'd like it to go.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for Bacup Borough just purely based on the home advantage and local support.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. So this one is probably one that we'll be keeping an eye on most. across the fixtures, which is Garstang at home to Darwin FC.
Well, if the form table's anything to go by, then Darwin should win this by a canter.
Yeah, absolutely. So they've won 5 of their last 6 games, with just the 1 defeat and 19 goals scored, which is the most in the division by some distance. Just the 8 goals conceded as well, which isn't bad going at all. So you kind of want to say that this will be a one-way result, really.
Don't take anything for granted, Darwin. Make sure you do the business for us.
Yeah, please.
But yeah, I'm going for Darwin.
Yeah.
And Steeton versus Daisy Hill is the other one for us, which.
Again, that's one that we'd be keeping an eye on and kind of hoping that the result goes our way. So we were due to play Steeton, whose form is a little better than ours, but they have lost the last 2 games.
Do you find yourself looking at all kinds of different scenarios here? Because I'm looking at that and I'm saying to her, well, we're obviously going to come to our game, but if we win on Saturday with 8 points, if Steeton lose theirs, they're on 18. So there's a 10 point. I'm not trying to teach you mathematics here. There's a 10 point difference, but we've got to play them twice, which would reduce the arrears to 4. That's the way I look at things, and it's a hard way of looking at things.
At the minute, mate, I'm just looking to see how we're going to hold Garstang. That's first priority, and they're only 7 points behind us, and our fixtures are a bit more favourable than theirs, because we have to play the 5 teams directly above us. We've got to play them all at least once, and 2 of those teams we've got to play twice. So looking at Steeton versus Daisy Hill, Steeton have the better form, but Daisy Hill always brings something about them. They are mid-table for a reason as well. So I will say an away win there.
Yeah, listen, we want Daisy Hill to win.
Yes, we do.
Unfortunately, for our own reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, listen, it's going to be a tough one because there's not much difference between the form tables there.
No.
So, that could easily be an upset. It could be a Steeton. It could be a Steeton win easily. It's probably got the hallmarks of a draw, but let's go for Daisy Hill.
We absolutely do. Which brings us to our game, which is away at Holker Old Boys. So one of the things that we have been trying to impress as a team and as a club is that whenever we play a team, again, having already played them once this season, we always look to better the result one way or another. Now, for this one, it should be quite straightforward because Holker Old Boys beat us by 9 goals to 0 in the reverse fixture. But that was a while ago.
Really cruel.
That was a while ago.
Reminded me of that. That's really cruel.
Oh, like you've forgotten. Come on.
Try to forget.
I know. I wasn't there for that one, and I won't be there for this one. But I think this game will be vastly
You're
different.
missing a coach trip?
Yes, I am.
Oh,
I am.
dear.
It's my mother's birthday.
All
Really.
right.
It's the only thing that will allow me time off. Is me mother.
Yeah.
But yeah, we will absolutely get a better result than that this time. I do question whether we've got enough to take a win. But then again, I said that about the main road game, and we all know what happened there. If you don't, go check out YouTube or any of our social medias, because we've got the videos all over there. I think Holker have a lot of firepower behind them. They're free scoring.
Yeah.
They are free scoring. We'll make no bones about that one. They're well within their rights to challenge for the playoffs. But we are bringing a little bit of form and a lot more togetherness. So I'm going to put on my ambition hat and say that we will take a point at Holker Old Boys.
A point? Right. Yeah, listen, that would be a good result, wouldn't it, away from home?
Yeah, absolutely it would.
I'm looking forward to the game. To be perfectly honest with you,
I think they'll underestimate us quite substantially, given what preceded.
Well, you'd like to think so,
Yes,
but then sometimes you carry that confidence over, and it makes all the difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
In terms of how you approach your game. But that said, we just have to harness what we did and take it forward into this game, and hopefully the coach trip, getting all the players together as well, because we don't have many coach journeys in this division, as you know.
No, we don't. We've only had one so far, and that was for a cup game. So.
And it'd be really, really nice to celebrate with sparkling water on the way back from
and fruit, yes.
And fruit.
Rather
than
beer, because we don't drink beer because we're a fit club. So what's your prediction, Frank?
My prediction is 3 crates of ale. Sorry.
That's your Asda order, Frank.
Sorry, I forgot that. I'm spinning far too many plates. I think, listen, you've got to be the eternal optimist.
Of course you do.
You have to. And when you look at the victory at Main Road, we might look back on that. I know you've mentioned go and have a look at the YouTube and the euphoria that surrounded that. That might be looked upon as the turning point in the club's history in this current era. Yeah. And it would be nice to think that that is the start of what we'll see on Saturday. So I'm going to go for a Skem win. I don't think I've ever gone for anything less, have I? I've not predicted a draw or a loss.
All right. Well, we'd never predict a loss for Skelmersdale United on this show. It is worth pointing out, though, that both us and Holker Old Boys have scored the same number of goals across our last 6 games.
Oh, right. I didn't know that.
Yes, we have. Yeah, we've and
spotted that one.
Yeah, we have, and we've scored more than one other team across the last 6 games. So there's reasons to kind of build a bit of a platform of optimism, regardless of how blithe or blind it is. Yeah. So yeah, you're going to say a Skem win. I'm going to say a Skem draw. Either which way, or this, if either of our predictions are right, then that coach will be a party bus down the M6.
It most definitely will. Yes, and that sort of rounds up the predictions.
Yes, it
for
does.
The weekend. Listen, it's been a fabulous show. I hope you've enjoyed it. But listen, before we do depart, I ask the question every week. What have you learnt this week?
I have learned that gloves should be allowed on the football pitch, especially if you're playing in minus 17 degree weather. I've learned that that cup games can either be fairy tales or they can be poison chalices, depending on how they affect your league standings as well.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, yeah. Listen, I'm with you in terms of highlighting a player wearing gloves, particularly at Manchester United, the least of their worries at the moment. So
yeah, it is.
I think if he was stamping his authority there, fair enough. If it works, then we will know come the end of the season whether he's turned a corner and whether Rashford will be sold in the January transfer window. That's a bit of speculation that's been going on as well. And I've just been learned to be careful on social media, and as careful as I've always been on social media, you can never be careful enough, because when you make mistakes, whether they be honest or otherwise, there's always somebody there that will pull you back, and it's a worrying sign of the future. And then speaking to Kevin Towey there about sort of social media management as well of football clubs, not actually going about your business the old-fashioned way like Kevin's still doing now, even though he's a younger bloke. And Tommy Lawson, our own Tommy Lawson, carries on to do that, carries on doing that. And I think I'd like to see some of those old-fashioned values continue, and without social media taking over too much. Social media can be a great tool if it's used wisely. But other than that, I've learned not to walk into the coldest pitch in the northwest counties on a Saturday morning just to find out whether a game can be played or not in 70, 80 mile an hour winds and end up with brain freeze. And I won't be doing that in a rush again.
At the very least, put your hat on.
I should have done, shouldn't I?
Yes, you should.
But I can't find my hat. If anybody's found a Gant, what do you call it? A Gant? What are they
Beanie?
called? No, the other a bucket hat.
Okay.
I've got a Gant bucket hat. I've not been able to find since I come back from
An Oasis gig.
An Oasis gig. No, I didn't go to it. I wish I could have done. Couldn't afford the ticket. Couldn't even get down to the last few.
No, me neither. But anyway.
But yeah, if anybody finds me bucket hat, a Gant, navy blue. Clutching at straws here. This show's go from one extreme to another. But if anybody finds it and wants to return it to me, because I'm pretty sure somebody out there has got my £50 hat and is deliberately keeping it just to spite me.
Oh, they've sold it on Vinted by now, mate. You've got no chance.
Yeah. Listen, and a final words, as usual, to the great AJ.
It was a great AJ. You just got the average one here. You've been listening to the Speaking Frankly Football Show with me, AJ the Jet, and Frank Hughes. Please remember to like, rate and review across Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts from. We are also available to follow on Facebook and X, so you'll be made aware of all upcoming shows as they come out. In the meantime, this has been the Speaking Frankly Football Show, and we will see you next week for our last episode before we break for Christmas and New Year, and we hope to have you all tuning in again then. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.